Well, we got 3 hatches. These 2 and the one in the console there. I don't know if you can see it. Kind of dark in the shade. But yeah, these 3 are ready to go in. So we're going to go ahead and pre-drill our holes. We're going to use some urethane caulk to put these things down. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll silicone the edges later on. I'll explain that to you as we go. All right, so let me go ahead and get out the drill. Make our pilot holes. Yes, this is our new look now. No tent top, so everything's going to be bright and shiny. What we're going to do is these hatches all conceal the screws when they're closed, which is good because it'll help keep the water out from going down to the top. We're going to go ahead and pre-drill all of our holes, put our urethane on here, and screw this thing tight. Okay, now we got all of our holes drilled. We're going to go ahead and we're going to apply some urethane caulk. Now, the reason we're using urethane, well, actually, I shouldn't say urethane. It's butyl. We're using butyl, and the reason we're using the butyl is the butyl tends to stay intact with a little more movement. So there's going to be some movement on the floor, people walking around, shifting weights and things like that. So that's why we're going to use the butyl on this. Now, I don't usually like to use butyl because butyl's kind of messy, but we're going to give this a shot. Let me put a glove on first. I've done this without gloves, and then I'm using chemicals to get my hands clean and wondering why I'm using the chemicals when I have gloves. So we're just going to put a little bead all the way around. There's a nice little rim on here. You know, we could put this on the deck as well as this. I'm just doing it here because, look at that nice mess. I can be a little more precise. And like I said, this stuff is a mess. Okay, so I got that. Now what I'm going to do is just go around and give a little squirt into each hole. And drop this in. Now it's just a matter of putting the screws in. Now, the one thing I'm not doing here is I am not putting these screws tight right away. The reason for that is just in case something has to move a little bit. Okay, now the one thing you may have noticed is there's nothing really coming out of here. This is very tight, by the way. What we're going to do with this edge is, we're going to tape this thing off because we're not going to. We're going to make a little gutter when we do our no skid. At that same time, we're going to come around here with some silicone caulk and silicone it up, and that's really just for housekeeping, so we don't end up getting stuff stuck underneath here. And you've probably seen this on your boat yourself, where you're washing around a hatch, and all of a sudden out comes a whole bunch of dirt, and you come back a little while later and the dirt's still kind of running out. So that's what that prevents. It keeps the dirt from getting in there, even though it's only that little bit. It can be a mess, but there's definitely something satisfying about having one done. So let's go ahead and got to do that one, and we got to do the one under the console. Okay, now we're under the console. So it's a little bit tighter in here. And one of the problems that we're going to have, which really isn't going to be too big of a deal, I think, is that we're not going to be able to put screws in these back holes. Just doesn't open far enough. So let's do what we can do. Now the thing with this particular hatch as well is this hatch will never get stepped on. It's never going to get kicked. So it's not going to be as critical for those screws. There's a lot of paper wasps in here too. So keeping these hatches on here is going to help keep them out. Sure is a lot hotter without that tent. But, you know, all good things come to an end. When I talk about this butyl caulk being messy, what I'm really talking about is the fact that it's super stringy, and once you start getting this thing on something, if you touch it, it's a mess. Perfect. All right, so next time what we're going to do is right here, we're going to build one of those hatches that you can, you lift up, push in, and then you can take the whole thing out, and it kind of latches up here and latches down here. Just because we've had a lot of problems with wasps, and there's probably a wasp nest up there right now. But I'm going to go ahead and keep them out. Then we'll be able to go ahead and pull up our rigging through the tube, get our steering in here, and get this thing back together. It's getting there. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we got most of our hatches installed. We still got one more hatch to put in, I think, maybe two, and we're getting there. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Okay, so for this front hatch, first thing we have to do is just determine where this is going to be. Now, to do that, we need to take some measurements from inside this hole under the front seat. So we know there's a bulkhead, 11 inches, and then it's about a 6-inch bulkhead, and about 16 inches. All right, so now we'll kind of line this up by eye, mostly. So here's our first mark. That's 11 inches. And then we go about 6 inches or so past that. We got a mark here. And then the other way, which we said was 16 inches. So we'll bring this in, line this up, about 16 inches. And we come out to right here. So we'll just guesstimate right about there. Now our bulkhead goes this way for here. So those are we don't want to get that close to those. All right, now we have basically our corner established where our bulkheads are. So we want to make sure we stay off of these lines. Now, one thing I do want to make sure is when I open this hatch, that it'll stay open. So I want to back far enough from the wall so that I can open this up and it's not going to close on me. Now, we want to, like I said, we want to stay off this bulkhead and this bulkhead. So probably, I'm thinking right about there. Now, keep in mind that the hull is on an angle like this over there. So that hole is coming down. This bulkhead is pretty much straight right here. So we want to kind of stay as close to here as we can. But what we're going to do is we will drill a hole about here, and then we'll be able to get down there with our tape measure, see exactly where our bulkheads are, place this thing exactly where we want it. And as always, if we drill this in the wrong spot, we will have a video on how to repair holes in your deck. There it is. Hope that's big enough. Eight inches. Maybe that was 6 inches. Let me just double check that. Nope, that was 8 inches. So, our bulkhead is there, which I'll tell you what, I'm only about a ½ inch off because I was saying it was going to be about here. Pretty close. Let's see what we got this way. This way we got about 9 1/4. So I was thinking we were going to be here. We're actually there. So I was about a ½ inch off each way. I think we'll survive. Let's see this way. We're about 9 inches. So about 9 inches, we run into another bulkhead. So we got a bulkhead here, here, and here. So this is one edge, the other edge. We just have to fit in between there. And I don't think we'll have a problem. It's just, I don't think there was anything in this direction until we get to the hull. About 15 inches. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing there until we get to the hull. They open. We'll cross that one out. Now, we want to make sure that we're straight. So we want to try to stay parallel to here, as long as that will let this be parallel to the front of the boat. I don't know how far off these are. Okay, that's parallel with this. Now we need to check this with the front of the boat with the straight edge so we can get our marks over on the other side as well. Okay, now that we've determined that this is where it's going to go, we're going to go ahead and mark out all the way around. That's a little confusing over there. Okay, so since this is the same as this radius, we're just going to use the hole saw to cut our circle. Then we'll use the jigsaw just to make our straight lines. missed our bulkheads on that one. That's good. Now, if you're wondering, as I'm drilling, why am I wobbling this around? What that's doing is that's just making the kerf that the saw blade is cutting bigger. Makes it a little easier to get that core out. I'll show you another little trick that makes it a little easier to get the core out. Loosen up that center drill bit and just pry it up with a screwdriver. Now it's going to pull the drill bit out. Well, usually it pulls the drill bit out as well. But you can just stick that back in. It's going to be hot. Tighten it up. Ready for your next hole. And you can see the fiberglass is fairly thick right there. That's actually one of our thicker areas. The one thing I have learned is to not have the camera on the deck when I'm using the jigsaw. Imagine that funky side messing us up over here. That was close. Sure am glad that I labeled these wires. This is for a future spotlight. And we also ran a rope in case we need to pull something else through here. See if that got us closer. There we are. Now, remember when I was mentioning about how the hole comes across? So you can see we didn't want to get too close to this side because we didn't want to get into that where the hole comes across. But basically this is where the anchor would be stored. So got that one in. Now we'll just lay out for one over there. But you can see, gonna need to do some more gel coating. That's all right. Okay, so what we did is we carried this line across from the front of the other hatch, and then we know that we want to be 7 3/4 of an inch back from the wall at that line. So put that there, and it's 7 3/8. You want to be on that side of the line. So we're going to go ahead and place our hatch based on this corner and mark it out. Because we took all of our measurements from the front edge, we need to line this edge up with that line, and this edge up with that line. That is where the hatch is going to go. So we just got to mark it out and cut it. All right, so once we go ahead and get this all gel coated in, then we'll go ahead and attach it. It's just sitting here right now. And next week, we will explain that. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.